Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for being with us this week again. I have a beautiful, fabulous woman with an amazing soul who will share it all with us today. Deanna Herrin, how are you?
I am great. Thank you. It's such an honor to be on this podcast with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's an honor to have you. Honestly, I met Deanna on LinkedIn. Thank you, LinkedIn. Like, you are connecting me with so many amazing people. So Deanna just launched, well, I say just, at the beginning of this year, launched an amazing book called Unbecoming. And I will let her finish the title and explain to us why she chose that title.
Oh, yes. So, the book didn't start off with the title of Unbecoming, but as I started laying everything out on the journey of writing the book, which was such a unique journey, being an author is not my background by any means, but in 2016, I was actually called to write the book. I knew that I needed to write my story, and I thought that the initial book title would be Journey to Joy, because, through a series of circumstances, and which we can get into later, I am living in a place of pure joy, and it was that journey. But really, the book title became Unbecoming, because in order for us to become our true authentic self that is already there, we don't have to search for it. We don't have to become something. It's the journey of unbecoming the lies that we have believed about ourselves and living our truth.
Goodness, I just feel like we've opened the door to a big subject here. Like, the lies we've been fed. And, it has a very negative connotation because, it feels like it was intentional, but I know it wasn't intentional by our parents or our ancestors or whatever. It's everyone, as generation goes, have their own belief, and we give it to, the next generation. So how, what am I trying to ask here? I really need another coffee, Deanna, this morning. Like, what's going on with me? So what I'm trying to say is, in your book, it's talking about the 12 traps. And I guess that the 12 traps are directly associated with unbecoming. So enlighten us a little bit about the traps.
The traps actually came from just from that deep exploration of sharing my story. And I got together a book team and we collaborated. I wrote, let them read some of the things that I had written, and we started to put it all on paper. And it was actually my husband that said, Deanna, these are traps that you have been caught up on in your life. And so the traps began to just evolve, and they're traps that really keep us from our greatest self. And for me, it was trying to prove my worth, trying to prove my worth through seeking validation from others. If you approve of me, then I'm going to approve of me. The trap of achievement, which honestly, proving my worth and achieving, that did me very well until I realized, wow, I'm not more joyful once I get to this title or this amount of money or whatever it was. And so the traps are just something that we need to learn and become aware of that can keep us from really living the life that we are created to live on this earth.
And what I love about your book is that, yes, we will get into it a bit more after, you did go through difficult times, because I do think that it's in difficult times quite often that we learn the most. But when you chose to write your book, it's really because you had, I won't say arrived where you wanted to, because we're never where we want to be, but you finally discovered, what's really worth in the journey, to do the journey, because you are very successful. You are where you wanted to be business wise, and you found the joy that you wanted to find. So now you want to share this with everyone into like how to get there, because a lot of people have misconceptions, when we're not at the top, or when we're not rich, or when we're not in a good relationship or whatever. We always have the idea of like, oh, if I can just get there, it's going to be so much better. If I can just get to this rank, it's going to be better. If I can just have this much more in my bank account, it would be so much better. But basically what you're teaching us here is that that's not what makes it better, right?
That's not what makes it better. It's actually the journey. The journey on this life of learning who we really are, that's where the joy comes in. The joy comes in the present moment, just being able to be present. For many years, I lived so much on my past and the belief system that I was developed. And that's something that you talked about. Yeah, it sounds so negative that someone put these belief systems on us, but truly it was just our subconscious mind taking in all of this information when we were younger. And once that subconscious mind closed and our nervous system started playing this automatically, it was just the tapes that myself, that I learned to play over and over and over. And it was a belief system that doesn't serve us. And so on our journey, it's really just learning to live in the present. And I was living in the past. So believing that I wasn't worthy because of certain circumstances or situations in my upbringing, believing that I wasn't seen or I wasn't important and I didn't deserve to be cherished. And once I learned what my truth is, I am seen, I am important, I deserve to be cherished, I now can teach others my worth, if that makes any sense. Because what I was teaching everybody else subconsciously is that I am not seen, I am not important, and I don't deserve to be cherished.
That's so crucial what you just said there. And I honestly am still on that journey of becoming that, or unbecoming, because, yes, there's one big thing that we do teach. And you said it so well. We teach people how to treat us or what to feel about us. A big part in the way we feel about ourselves. And a huge part of that is unconscious. So if you don't think you're worth it, you will teach that to people, that you're not worth it. Or if you think you're unlovable, quite often you'll end up having relationships that don't work that well. But you're not teaching the right thing, and we're not even aware of what we're teaching. I love when you say, live in the present, and that sounds so simple. And there's so many people who say that, like live in the moment, live in the present. And it's still something that I'm working on so hard, to really be in the present and in the moment. But what are your precious advices, like tips on that, on how to... And
I love that you say you're still working on it, because I don't think there's ever a time when we get it right. I even, woke up this morning and I just felt this sense of a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of fear. And I had to I was still in bed. So I was laying there and I just had to breathe through it and ask myself, where is this coming from? What is this coming from? And it's worry, and it's always worry or fear. Fear of what's coming, what we anticipate for the future. And so that's living in the future. And so I had to bring myself back to, I have today. And my job is to do my very best today. And so that helps me ground myself back to focusing on the present. And that we have the opportunity either to choose that fear pathway or the faith pathway. And knowing that what I'm doing today is creating what I know and I believe to happen in my future. And that's the pathway that I had to redirect myself this morning. Is like, I'm going to choose the faith that I'm going to be present in today and do what I am called to do to my very best and let God do the rest.
So there is a big component of faith too. And, that's another thing that I want to bring, because I'm not a faith-based person. And that's something else that I'm pretty much working on, because, whatever, my belief system that was put in me when I was young was just like to not trust this. But I realize as I get older, you need to believe in something bigger than yourself, because otherwise life is hard, when you think it's all on your shoulders. So call it how you want, believing in something bigger than yourself and surrendering to, that bigger thing is very calming and peaceful. And I love that you said that. So whatever it is for you, it's important to have something you can surrender to. The other thing that I wanted to touch on that is, what you said about we're never necessarily there in the journey. And you are very, very aware and knowledgeable about how to be in the present and how to stop limiting beliefs and everything. But that doesn't mean that it's erased from your life forever. It just means that you're really aware of it, and now you have the tools to deal with it, right?
That's exactly right. Because I think so many people believe that someday, we're going to have it all, figured out and put together. And I mean, I hope as I grow older, yes, that I'll have it figured out a little bit more. But I truly believe that it's the awareness. It's the awareness that starts the process. But most of us are walking through this life asleep, not aware of the tapes that are playing constantly. And when you have the knowledge and you have the awareness, you can do better. And that's what we want, right? Is we want to do better and be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what I love about people like you coaching or sharing their stories, is that you are living it and you're still some kind of in it. You're not saying, oh, I'm perfect and that's it. Now I'm looking from above to you guys and we'll teach you. And that is being human.
Well, let's be honest, because I know you have kids. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, as a mama, I don't think there's ever a time that we don't worry about our children. I mean, it never ends. It doesn't matter how old they are. We still are we feel that protector. And so the worry comes from that fear pathway, right? That fear pathway instead of that faith pathway. Yeah. And it's just a learning lesson is all it is. It's just learning to become aware and trust, and the knowing that, it's out of my control. God's got it.
Yeah. And you said something there that I will share. It's a bit of a side note, but something I read in a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I read that years ago. And there's one thing for me that really stuck, because I worried, and still do, a lot about my kids. I walked my son to the school bus stop all of grade 7. So it's high school here. And it's literally at the corner. He was like, Mom, are you kidding me? And I was just like, I'm just walking the dogs. But, poor him, he's the first in the family. So that was his role, to break barriers and teach me how to be a parent. But basically, when I read that in the book, she said, when we fear these things, it's not that we love more or less or whatever. It's just because we don't know how we will handle if something happens. So me worrying about my kids this much and me walking him to the bus stop is because I'm fearing that I would never be able to handle anything happening to him or my daughters, for that fact. But the thing is it's exactly what you just said. It's because we don't trust ourselves. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not saying that now I just don't care if my kids do whatever, but I had to really reprogram myself with whatever happens, I can handle it. So That's a big part about, yeah, the side note of being a mama and worrying. So, Deanna, what's your favorite chapter in your book, if you have one? Because I know that it's the 12 traps, basically. But is there one that, was more significant to you?
Through the book process, my passion has really become teaching. And I've taught men through my program, but I really focus on helping people really identify their core belief system. We break through that core belief system and they come out on the other side with their new truth. And then we integrate that new truth into their life. And at that point, the disconnect from where they were living in the past from their core beliefs and the goals that they want to achieve, that gap becomes shorter. And so that would probably be my favorite. I mean, I have become just a little bit of a mindset geek, just a little bit. I absolutely love studying our mind. It's such a fascinating process. And just to help people break through that old belief system and see the light bulb come on is fantastic. And I've put probably 100 of my personal team members through the program, and yeah, it's been really cool. And several people outside of my organization as well.
Yeah, because Deanna is also running a huge successful organization in network marketing, which that in itself is a whole other journey. But yes, mindset is so crucial. And, I like how you say, I'm becoming a mindset geek. It's cute and funny, but it's true that when you start understanding how powerful, our mind is and everything that comes attached to it, you can't unknow what you know. It's like, you're like, I know that I need to talk to myself. I know that I need to put things in place, and I know that I need to have a vision that is clear and all of this. So what do you think about vision, which is very closely related to mindset?
Like your vision for your life or vision for the future?
Vision for your life, business, future, whatever, you can take it as, oh, I'm going to be this amazing mom, or you can take it as, I'm going to be this amazing leader at the top of my organization. I think it's all the same base and the same principle. You can apply it to anything.
Oh yeah. So vision is really important, but it really, once you break through that core belief system, you're able to create a bigger vision than you ever thought possible for yourself, because you're not living in that old self-limiting, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I don't deserve to be financially independent, whatever that is. And my philosophy is, yes, you need to have that vision. But really, until you can get down to the deepest level of your core beliefs and change that story, that vision is not going to become as clear as it really needs to be. And you're not going to have the belief system in order to achieve that vision until we break through that. So vision is so important. I am a huge goal setter every day. Every day, I write down my gratitude. I write down my affirmations based on my core belief system, and I write down my 10 goals for the next 10 years. And that is a visualization that works as well.
I love it. Because now we're touching a bunch of different points, but I love this. And, thank you for clarifying that your core beliefs have to be really aligned as well, and you have to know them. I remember when I started doing goal settings about 10 years ago, because before I was in corporate, so I was kind of like borrowing the corporate's goals and they were becoming mine and I was going with it. When I decided to be an entrepreneur, well, there's no one to tell you what to do. So you need to, put your own baseline. But I remember I was having such a hard time defining. Really, I knew I wanted to make more money. I knew I wanted to be happy. I knew I wanted to be healthy. But nothing was ever, clear and laser focused, because I could not write it down. Like I was hanging out with people who were like, I wrote my 5-year vision. And when you would read it, it was like written to the detail. And me, I could not see it in my mind. And it's not because I didn't want to be there. But, hearing what you're just saying now helps me understand. It's also because I really thought I was not worthy at all. So it's really difficult to have your logical mind that will say, do this, but then your interior is right there knowing like, well, I don't even feel like that. So how do you want me to visualize that? So what would you, besides from reading your book and taking coaching sessions with you, because everyone would need that, what would you recommend people to do like today to start themselves on the right track of, breaking limiting beliefs?
You have to do the inner work. So for years and years, so my original background is, I practice medicine. So I'm a physician's assistant. And do you have those in Canada? You have nurse practitioners, yes. And so I practiced internal medicine for a long time, and personal growth and development was not a part of my life, ever. And when I started in my business, I learned personal growth and development, but and not that there's anything wrong with this. I read all the books. I went to all the conferences, and I got that temporary motivation. But I noticed that there wasn't any sustainable motivation until I really started to do the inner work. And you have to go inside and ask the right questions, and go to enroll in those conferences that you can ask the right questions. The first time that I went to really do some internal dialogue was a Robin Sharma conference in Toronto. And I walked away from that conference. I'm like, whoa, this was very introspective. It was very introspective. And so just doing that deep dive, don't be afraid. People are so afraid to feel emotions. Don't be afraid to do that deep dive. Emotions are there for us to feel. That's why they're there. We just have to learn how to process them. So it's really just not being afraid to do that internal work. The books, the conferences, the rah-rahs are only going to get you so far. But once you do that deep dive and really know who you are and why you're here, that's when the magic begins.
I love that you said that too, because I love conferences, but you're right. When you come back home and you're sitting alone in your chair, it's only your inner power and your inner belief that will really continue carrying you on. And the reason why we love conferences so much is because we can borrow everyone's energy. So while we're in there, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm on fire. But really what we don't realize often is that it's not our fire. We're just sitting around a big bonfire and we're like, okay, this feels amazing. So I love that you say that, because I see that there's a big trend of people going more and more to conferences, whether they're with, whatever industry they're in. Like if we look at, self-development conferences and all of these things. But if you don't do the inner work, you will only be on fire when you are surrounded by the energy. So you need to do the inner work. And I get what you're saying. Well, I get people being afraid of diving in and feeling, because that was me like 100%. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I was drinking, because I was just like, when I was starting to feel too much, I was like, oh, let's calm this down and numb this a little. So it's extremely hard and it's scary, because you're like, what am I going to find there? Is it going to be worse? And, I'm going to ask you a question here, but do you find that sometimes when people really start that journey, it goes a bit worse before going amazing, because they actually dive into feelings that they were not used to feelings?
110%. And I can share my own personal journey. When I started the book process, my childhood was very unstable. We moved, I forget the numbers, and it's irrelevant, but we moved 10 times. I went to 10 different schools in 8 years, I believe. And so there was a lot of, not stable environment. And my first drink was at the age of 12, after my mom divorced her second husband, the only father that I really knew. And so at age 12, when they divorced, that's when I took my first drink, and I just remember going, oh, wow, actually feel normal. I remember feeling that. And, that became my coping mechanism as well. And so I just learned to really mask those feelings of unworthiness, numb it through alcohol, but I was unaware that that was even there. When I started the book process, even though I had shared my story, I'd been to many years of counseling. I've talked about this over and over, but there was something about writing it on paper that it was a whole different experience. There were times when I was in my closet crying, going, I can't do this anymore. This is so much. This is just so much. And I would write it out. I would experience it. I would release it. And then I would come back to the computer and start to write. The journey was intense. On the other side of the journey, that's when now I experience more joy than I have ever experienced. But it's worth feeling it to have that joy.
And congratulations for going through that experience. I know so many people who are like, oh yeah, I could write a book on my life. The huge difference between saying it and actually doing it, because it's a cathartic experience. You're going back through it, and it is quite the journey. So congratulations. And your book is absolutely amazing. So get her book. I'm going to put all of the information, but get Deanna's book. But what I was going to say there is that I also assume you are a private person. So how does it feel to have your story out there? Because it's very vulnerable and it's touching. At the same time, it's very inspiring and hopeful, and there's tools. So you really gave the perfect mix. But how does it feel to know that someone can read your soul?
I have only had one moment since the book has been published where I thought, oh my gosh, like my whole life is being read by lots of women. What in the world? And men as well. But truly, by the time I had finished the book, I just got to the point where I wanted to finish the book. And I had a woman that was so powerful in my life. She was my emotional energy coach. And she said to me, Deanna, what if you would have written the book 5 years ago? 5 years ago, what if you would have written the book 5 years ago? How many lives could be different? And that's what struck me so hard during the times that I felt like I wanted to quit the process, was how many lives could have been different had I already written this book. Because most of the time we shut down because it's about us, our fears and our insecurities of what people will think. When my mission with this book was, I wanted women to see that you can still be successful, you can still have an amazing life, and have secrets. And those secrets don't serve us. I just wanted women to just feel that they had permission to be themselves and to let that comparison trap, that achievement trap, that trap of validation, all of those things that we worry about in society, just to let those go and give them freedom to be who they were created to be. Because when you look at me and you look at my successes and you look at my family, et cetera, you wouldn't think that I've ever struggled a day in my life. But I wanted women to know, yeah, everyone has struggles. And it's so much better on the other side of that struggle.
Yeah, and you're really picture perfect in everything that you just said. And, I get that. I get exactly what you're feeling, because people look at you and they're like, oh, wish I could be her, wish I looked like her, wish I had her husband, her kids are so cute, name it. But no one really knows how you feel. And, it's not about the image on the outside. It's really about how you feel on the inside. Like, I know that for me, since for as long as I can remember, one of my dream is to be free. And it's funny because, being married, it's like, well, you're clearly not free, but I'm talking about the freedom of all of these feelings, because when you carry them since you're so young, it just, for me at some point, life was not even conceivable if you did, like, I could not conceive that someone could live without having those feelings. For me, it's like everyone had these feelings and everyone were managing them differently, but everyone had chaos in their life, and, that was it. So to come to a realization that, wow, you can actually live without feeling that, or when you can control these things, that is so empowering. And, I think that it's becoming more and more empowering because of people like you who are sharing their stories, who are choosing to be vulnerable and choosing to break the image of perfection, because we were raised for so long that, a perfect life looked like this, and it's not, because now we're starting to find all the undercurrent of those picture perfect.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that was definitely me for sure. Striving for perfection. Everything looked good on the outside, but on the inside, it was total chaos, complete chaos. And yes, I just have such a heart and passion for women and our struggles. Our struggles and what society has taught us, our struggles of what we believe we should be like. And it's actually miserable not living who you really are.
It is. And, one thing that I really want to point out, and I want everyone to understand, is that even if Deanna went through that, and I'm telling you, read her book, even if she went through that, she still had tons of success in her business. She still went to the very top. So I want to break the stigma that when you feel that crappy, excuse the word, but whatever, when you feel that bad or on a line or whatever, it shows and you're not going to achieve what you have to achieve. We have these type of people that are super achieving people that will achieve whether they have issues or not, whether they're happy or not. The outside always works out. So don't think that when you look at someone that you think that is where you would want to be, that, they're okay as well. Make sense?
Yes, totally makes sense. Totally.
Yes. So, okay. The last question I'm going to ask you really is, what are the top 3 traps in your book? Because I feel like, when people read it, they will be like, validation. That's such a simple thing. I knew that already, that validation is not good, but we don't realize how bad it is. So what are the top 3 ones for you that you're like, you need to work on these ones ASAP?
So self-limiting beliefs, for sure. And I think the second one is the trap of self-preservation. And I didn't realize I was in that I had that trap really until, we go through so many hurts in our life. I mean, and it can start, even in elementary school, junior high school, whatever, but, boyfriend breakups, friends that decide they don't want to be our best friend and walk away. And then it just evolves throughout our life. And what I realized is, as I had people walk away from me and people leave, in times when I really needed people, I developed these wounds in my heart. And I'm not the only one that develops wounds in our heart. We just don't realize that that's what we do. But each time we are wounded in some way, we are hurt in some way, it's like wrapping a layer of saran wrap or plastic wrap around your heart. And you start to not feel, you start to not trust. And so then you get hurt again and you have another layer of plastic wrap around your heart. And before you know it, you have preserved yourself so well that you have your hands out and you're not letting anybody in. You've got everybody at arm's length. And that's not a way to live your life. And I truly believe that every single one of us, our purpose is to love and encourage, love and encourage, love and encourage. And how can you love and encourage other people in this world when you have them at an arm's length, but you don't even know how to love yourself? And so self-preservation is a huge one.
I'm going to stop you here 1 second. You just made a revelation for me. Self-preservation, because I heard it in other terms, and I'm very, very strong at that. I deal with things very properly because I do preserve myself very well. But there's a give and take in that, that you won't let too many people in. So for me, when there's something that happens, like even if it's something that is under my control, like something happens to my kids and it's hurtful, I will literally feel numb for 2 weeks. So it's like for 2 weeks, whatever happens, it's like, no, I had my feeling there. So, and it makes sense. It's adding another layer of saran wrap. How do you get out of that?
So it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing, because once you know your core belief, your true story, those layers will start to unravel. They'll start to unravel because when I call your new story it's your heart tag, because we've uncovered those layers, and now you're wearing a new heart tag that says, I am seen, I am important, I deserve to be cherished. Those are mine. And so because we stand in our truth, now every person that we come up against, whenever they say something that rubs that old belief system, we can stand in our truth and go, no, but that's not true. Because I am seen, I am important, and I deserve to be cherished. And so that's a whole another level of the integration piece of learning how to live that new core belief.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. So what's our third trap?
The third trap would be either unforgiveness or surrender. So I believe that to really be free, we have to be able to forgive people, give them grace, and understand that everybody operates in this world through their own wounds. And being able to forgive and give them grace, that just means I know that wasn't meant towards me, because I am seen, I am important, and I deserve to be cherished. And I'm going to give them grace. That doesn't mean that they need to be a part of my life. If they've, hurt me in some way, I can love them from a distance, but I can give them grace and forgiveness.
I love that. And I think that the first person we need to forgive is ourselves. Especially, well, I'm going to say especially mothers, because I don't know what a father, a father feels. But maybe I should say as a parent, we carry so much guilt and so much, I should have done this differently. Like whether it be a small thing of like, I didn't put the right snack in our lunch, or, huge things. But we do criticize ourselves so much as parents. So forgive yourself first, and then, yes, forgive others, which is, again, sounds so simple, and it's so not. But you know what? In the end, it's all work. And I think that's why a lot of people are like, well, I know the information and it's not working for me. But there's nothing that will work for you unless you work for something. And, it is like Deanna, we can see that she has integrated those 3 affirmations. Like, I can see that you're telling them to yourself regularly, to the point that now your brain, it's recorded, it's there, and it's now an automatic response that for me wouldn't come naturally because I haven't done that process. But the work is so much worth it, because you can live in peace. And that's exactly where Deanna is right now. It's like in peace. And I think that's worth way more than any ranks, titles, or money that you can go get.
Yes.
True. Because there's, I know people who are millionaire and multimillionaire, and, they have the same struggles, and money doesn't buy these things. It's really like your inner work will solve your issues. Something you can't buy, you can't borrow, you can't lend, You can only work on yourself. So Deanna, it was such an honor to have you, and really everyone get her book, Unbecoming. It's on Amazon, I assume?
On Amazon, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So on Amazon, I will put all of the information, but what would you leave our listeners with? Like your last words that, if they remember one thing, that's what they need to remember.
Oh gosh, if you remember one thing, I just want you to know that you have a purpose. There's a plan for your life, and you can create whatever it is that you want to create, but you have to learn that it's about unbecoming, because that authentic, true self is already there. You just have to find her.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Deanna Herrin. I was struggling with her last name at first. For whatever reason, my brain had decided it was not that, and I'm not going to tell the other one. But it was such a pleasure to have you, and you're so lovable. And you know what? We just want to be surrounded by your energy. And when you meet someone like that, well, enter them in your circle. You need them. And Deanna, we will go get your book. Everyone out there, thank you so much for being here again this week. And if you have any comments or questions, you can write to me at info@simplycaroline.com, and I read my own emails and I will answer. So thank you so much. And Deanna, have a beautiful week, and so does everyone.
Thank you so much.